somebody sent me a copy of the interview of Andres Bautista, former Commission on Elections chairman and former PCGG officer. And he was being interviewed by the girl, the lady who made this movie on Imelda Marcos, The Kingmaker. I'm sure many of you may have watched it already because I think it's on YouTube. Her name is Lauren Greenfield. I can't even pronounce the name quite well. She produced, I don't know if it's a documentary. A documentary means it's based on documents, isn't it? Or something that's factual. But anyway, she produced something entitled The Kingmaker, and this is about Imelda Romualdez Marcos. And then she and Andres Bautista, they call him Andy as a matter of fact, were interviewed by somebody from the staff of Christian Amanpour. And in that interview, I heard Bautista saying so many things, and also this lady, after she has also interviewed Mrs. Marcos and then produced that documentary. In fact, she was asked, why a kingmaker? Why did you call Imelda Marcos a kingmaker? And according to her, well, it's because she wants to bring back to the palace or to Malacanang her family, to return to power. But who is it actually that's following? Because long before 1986 happened, Senator Bongbong Marcos was already in politics. He was already the vice governor of Ilocos Norte, the home province of his father and also his home province. Miss Amy Marcos also was already in politics after she returned from exile, and she was already in the Senate. She was in Congress and then she was in the Senate. Now she's a senator. So this has nothing to do with Mrs. Marcos trying to put her children there. Her children have their own intent in life, which is, as already mentioned so many times, it is to serve the people exactly the way their father has done. So it's not just following the footsteps of their father, but it is actually their intent, especially since they still have a very big following as far as our population is concerned, because you must recall that in the last presidential elections, they call it actually a snap election because Marcos moved the election for the president 1 year ahead of its actual time. The presidential elections would have been in 1987, but since America pressured him to have an election early on, because they were hoping that by doing so they could remove him through that kind of a technique. So he said, okay, let's see how this is going to go about, because he's positive that the people will vote for him, and they did. And we all know the results of those elections. But let me go back to that interview from the program of one of the ladies also of Christian Amanpour, and she was interviewing these two people, Andres Bautista and Lauren Greenfield. Lauren Greenfield, as I've said, produced that film, The Kingmaker, which is all about Imelda Marcos. Now let's get down to what exactly they talked about from the beginning of that interview. So it was asked of Bautista, what do you think of Imelda Marcos and so forth. And the first thing he mentioned was, well, you could see how extravagant she is, because look at the number of pairs of shoes that she has, all 3,000 of them. Para bang itong si Andres Bautista parang pinanganak lang kahapon, sapagkat alam naman niya yung 3,000 na mga sapatos na yon ay mga bigay ng mga shoemakers ng Marikina. If he were really good enough to do proper research, and if he looked at those pairs of shoes, nakatago yon sa isang kwarto sa ibaba ng Malacanang, nakalagay sa shoe stand, at kung talagang titingnan mo, ang dami nga, 3,000. Ngunit kung sisiyasatin mo bawat isa sa kanila, masyadong, pag makikita mo yung iba are talagang maraming dekorasyon, maraming mga palamuti na nakalagay doon. Tapos kung makikita nyo yung mga brand, iba-ibang brand, mga pangalan ng mga imported shoes, as a matter of fact. Kaya iisipin mo na siguro ito binili. Pero kung titingnan mo yung size ng mga sapatos na yon. Iba-iba ang size. Merong size 4, may 5, may size 10, may size 8. Ang size ni Mrs. Marcos ay size 9 sa kanyang sapatos. Kaya kung yun ay mga binili ni Mrs. Marcos, if she bought those shoes, then they should have been all the same size. So that's one aspect that people should look into. If she really bought all of those shoes, bakit iba-iba ang size nun? Hindi yun ang kanyang size. They should have all been size 9. Secondly, tingnan sana yung ilalim ng sapatos. Di ba? Pag nagamit mo na yung sapatos, merong marka na sa ilalim na may konting dumi. Kahit na anong gawin mo, basta nagamit mo na, talagang makikita mo, kung hindi may gasgas, ay may dumi na ng konti. Kung titingnan nila yung mga sapatos na yun, malinis. In other words, talagang nilagay sa eskaparate. Those shoes were really displayed there. Why? Why did she keep all those 3,000 pairs of shoes? Ito si Andres Bautista, nagulat. And he relayed it by saying na ganun ka-extravagant. Ganon ka-extravagant daw si Mrs. Marcos, 3,000 sapatos ang meron siya. That is, it is a very irresponsible way of saying it. As a matter of fact, one of the first interviews of Mrs. Marcos was about those shoes. Anong unang sinagot niya? Thank God, they found shoes, not skeletons. Yeah.
Well, I always say, when the world went to my closet to look for skeletons, they found no skeletons in Imelda's shoes, in Imelda's closet. They found beautiful shoes made by the people from Marikina.
Ang pag-usapan natin yung skeletons. They found shoes and not skeletons in my closet. So yung mga sapatos na yon, ilang beses ko na napag-usapan yan at ilang beses na rin na ulit-ulit yan at meron na rin mga ebidensya tungkol dyan. Those pairs of shoes, all 3,000 of them, were given as a gift to Mrs. Marcos by the Marikina shoe industry. We have a place here close to, within Metro Manila, sa Marikina. It's now a city. During their time, it was just a town. You must remember that during the time of the Marcoses, the metropolitan Manila area was actually composed of 13 towns and 4 cities. Presently, all of these are now cities except one. It's only Valenzuela that remains as a municipality. All the rest are now cities. At the time, Marikina was just a town. The town of Marikina. And they had a thriving shoe industry. Home industry nila, as a matter of fact. Yun ang hanap buhay ng mga tao sa Marikina. And Mrs. Marcos looked into this and then she said, magagaling ang ating mga craftsmen. Our skilled workers are very adept. As a matter of fact, nung nakita nga niya, maganda yung kanilang trabaho. Ngunit, bakit hindi na lumalaganap yung shoe industry na yan? Bakit hindi pwede mag-export? Kasi nakita nga niya na mahusay ang paggagawa, masinop. Very skilled workers we had there. So what she did was, she invited, and because of her travel, she invited some of those Italian and French and foreign shoemakers to look at the Marikina home industry, if you would call it, the businesses, the small businesses of the people of Marikina, and they were also surprised to see how skilled our shoemakers were. But there was something missing. Why the shoes could not be exported, or why they could not be of the quality of the French or of the Italian. And that was because of the leather, the tanning of the leather. Meron kasing method yan, na yung balat, hindi lang basta pinapatuyo o ganito, kung ano man ang ginagawa doon. Merong style ng tanning. Yan ang una. Pangalawa, yung type ng leather. Kung bata pa yung baka na, yung matanda na, basta it had to do with the leather. Sapagkat kung sa paggawa, kayang-kaya ng ating mga skilled workers dyan sa Marikina. So, tinuruan sila tungkol dyan sa tanning. At ang ginawa ni Mrs. Marcos, tinulungan din sila sa importation ng magagandang leather. At sila na rin ang anong tawag dito? They had a very good working relationship with all of these leading shoemakers in Europe and elsewhere in the world, so that they would know exactly how to make the kind of shoes that would be of high grade quality that you could export. So yun ang nangyari. At sa madaling salita, hindi nagtagal, talagang umunlad yung ating shoe industry sa Marikina. Marami silang nakuhang order long before, well, you know how it is nowadays, pag sabing made in China or made in India, made in Brazil, made in Mexico, yung mga sapatos, wala pang sinasabing ang made in the Philippines. Nauna pa tayo, as a matter of fact, sa paggagawa ng mga sapatos na may mga pangalan. Hindi ko nababanggitin, but these are foreign names. Usually you buy them in these high-end stores. Mga naka-exhibit yan sa mga malalaking tindahan at mga mahal. Nagawa natin yan. In fact, maraming nakuha silang mga kontrata na gumagawa sila ng mga sapatos. And then sometimes they also give the design that they want this kind, if it has to be, for instance, for royalty or for whatever. In other words, lumaganap yung shoe industry sa Marikina. And because of that, tuwing meron silang nagagawa. So whenever it is that they're able to produce a pair of shoes that is part of their export or something that they exhibit overseas, anything that they're proud of, nagre-regalo sila kay Mrs. Marcos. So for every design or for every pair of shoes that has merited an award abroad and here, and that has been part of an export that they already undertook at the times, talagang nag-increase yung kanilang income, lumaki yung industry dyan, nagre-regalo sila. So over the years, umabot nga sa mahigit nga 3,000 eh. Sinasabi nila 3,000 pairs, but there were even more. So lahat yan nakalagay doon sa escaparate, the shelves that was there in one room in Malacanang. And what did they do? Itong mga dilaw talaga, mga kasamahan ni Mrs. Aquino, sabi lang, wow, tinan mo, Imelda is so frivolous and she's so extravagant and she has 3,000 pairs of shoes. How many can she wear in a day? Tandaan niyo yung ibang sapatos doon, mga high heels pa yan. And never si Mrs. Marcos nagsusuot ng high heels. Naalala nyo na nagliligawan sila, na nakwento ko na ito sa inyo, na nililigawan, hindi lang nililigawan. Nung una siyang nakita ni President Marcos, si President Marcos was only a congressman at the time, and he saw Imelda in the canteen of Congress, pero yung sa pag-upo lang niya, mukha talagang matangkad na dalaga, and when he approached her, that's exactly what he asked, kung pwedeng tumayo siya saglit. Tapos parang sinukat niya yung kanyang shoulders kay Mrs. Marcos, kay Imelda at the time. So nakita niya na hindi pala hindi mataas sa kanya. So Mrs. Marcos knew this. As a matter of fact, ingat na ingat nga siya, lalo na pagka naglalakad sila halimbawa, especially pag sa television at saka kinukunan ng retrato, ayaw niyang makikita na parang mas matangkad siya kay President Marcos. Kaya hindi siya nagsusuot ng mga matataas na 3-4 inches na high heels. So it is really impossible na yung mga sapatos na nakita nila sa Malacanang, siya ang nagsusuot nun. Because she does not do this. Lahat ng mga kaibigan niya, and everybody knows that in Malacanang. As a matter of fact, karamihan nga nasuot niya parang step in a way. May tawag dun sa mga sinusuot niya nun. Kasi hindi ba nakakimona siya? Parang hindi naman bakya pero step in, yun ang suot niya. Hindi siya sapatos. First of all, it's comfortable. Second, it goes with her attire. And kaya nga sinasabi ko ito sapagkat kung talagang hindi lang sa research, pero kung talagang hindi madumi ang isip mo, magtatanong ka siguro, bakit ang tataas nitong mga takon na ito? Sinusuot ba ito ni Mrs. Marcos? Kung tingnan mo yung ilalim, hindi naman pala ito gamit. Never used. Kung titingnan mo yung size, hindi naman pala ito yung kanyang size. Kaya you cannot even just checking on them, immediately say, look at all the shoes that Mrs. Marcos has. My goodness. And then you have this, how many? 35 years after, you have this person under, anong pangalan to? Andres Bautista. At sasabihin niya, yan, nakita ninyo kung gaano kagastos si Imelda Marcos? 3,000 sapatos yan. It is so unfair to Mrs. Marcos because after all these years, this man, matalino naman daw yan, alam na niya siguro kung ano yung mga sapatos na yan. As a matter of fact, you go to Marikina today, they have a museum there. At least yung mga sapatos na retrieve nila kasi marami na daw nawala yung sa Malacanang. Yung mga mga natira na mga sapatos na sila rin na nagbigay kay Mrs. Marcos, ginawa nila ng museum sa Marikina. It is there exhibited to show that at one time, during the time of Imelda Marcos, we had a very thriving shoe industry in Marikina. Kaya yun parang rekwerdo nila na once upon a time, talagang kilala sila sa buong mundo at marami silang negosyo na napalaki gawa nga ng tulong ni Mrs. Marcos. It is there. There is a museum there in Marikina where you have some of these shoes kasi marami na nga nawala exhibited. And you can talk to some of them who probably are still alive or their sons and daughters who are still in the shoe industry, and they will tell you that indeed these were the gifts that they gave to Mrs. Marcos as a token that that pair of shoes, for instance, has a name brand, one of those big names in Europe, and they're able to make it and they're able to export it, and they're doing that precisely for those companies or for those shoe stores. That is the story of the shoes.
Like a Hellcat.